I'll call the meeting back to order. Please rise for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Those
suggest
watching and our guest this evening, Mr. O'Leary.
may I suggest that we take number 9 out of order to accommodate the superintendent? I'm sure he's busy trying to look at the weather forecast, see what we're going to have. We're going to have school. No.
Absolutely.
All right. So,
Mr. Bernard.
Chairman, thank you. Thank you to the members of the board. I appreciate the courtesy of taking my request out of order on your busy agenda. I'm here before you this evening to ask for your support in endorsing my desire to file a statement of interest with the Massachusetts School Building Authority for a restoration project of the E. Ethel Little School, Elementary School, The roof project is in need of repair, has been on our capital request list for a number of years. It does fit the qualifications for the accelerated repair program that the MSBA is currently entertaining statement of interest for. We estimate that the project is approximately a $260,000 project. That's based on a professional estimate. The cutoff requirement established by the MSBA is a $250,000 cost. Given that the portion of the roof restoration that we would entertain under this project, which is original, it certainly fits the qualification, the second qualification of the MSBA, that the project not be any newer than 20 years. So I can't speak to you with any great certainty that this project would be fully eligible for reimbursement by the Mass School Building Authority, but I thought it was a responsible decision once the invitation was extended for a statement of interest to be filed, that I do so. And I asked the school committee for its endorsement of my wish to do so at their meeting on Tuesday night, and I'm here before you tonight to ask for your endorsement as well.
Questions by anybody? Mr.
So
Prisco?
I just make sure I heard you correctly, you said it's 100% reimbursable, or?
The percentage reimbursement is not stated yet. It would be dependent upon the number of statements of interest to get received. And if ours was accepted and then we were then invited to file an application, it would be at that time that we would have a greater idea of just what the percentage might be.
Okay.
It could be a full or partial reimbursement.
Okay.
Is
Just
there
don't know that
some
at that
minimum,
time.
John?
Is there some minimum?
Is there a minimum reimbursement?
Reimbursement? Not stated, no.
Not stated.
And is
Mr. Prisco?
the roof having a serious leakage problem right now? Or
It is not having a serious leaking problem, but it is a roof that's being constantly maintained.
Yeah, well, this year especially,
Mhm.
I think there isn't many homes in North Reading that are not leaking right now, so. Okay, thank you.
no, we appreciate the
Anyone else?
invitation and appreciate you taking the initiative to come forward with it, too. So,
Mr. Yu?
Yes, Mr. Bernard, is this just a process that you're going through, it's just to see if we can get the funds? Because the documentation that I'm seeing is in draft form.
It is in a draft form. Until I got the votes of the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, I cannot file the electronic copy. My hope would be to do that tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is the deadline. February 13th is the deadline. My hope is to file it electronically. Once that's done, a final proof is then generated, and that is what has to be mailed into the MSBA along with the vote of the board through its minutes, which
Right.
Mrs. Brooks has guaranteed me that I will have by a week from Monday, so that we can send a hard copy into the MSBA.
And so, at that point, once you submit it, I was curious to know if
The
there were
next step in
any...
the process?
Yeah,
My understanding is that if the statement of interest is accepted as a project worthy, then we would then be invited to formally apply. And it's at that time that, based on the number of applications that the MSBA receives, that they have a better idea of the reimbursement rate for us, and if we're an eligible project.
right. In the interim, would you do any additional RFPs on the project?
Not at this
I see
time.
that there's, not at this time, but
No.
as you got closer, would you do that? Because I saw only one
We had the one
company.
estimate, correct.
Right. Would you consider getting additional estimates to see if there's someone that can do it at a either lower cost?
Well, the project has to be worth at least a $250,000 project. This estimate is $263,000, so
Okay,
I think we're pretty close to that baseline number.
I see. So then, if we receive funds from the MSBA, hopefully they'd be significant enough to reduce the cost, versus if they don't, then we'd really have to go through an RFP. You would have to go through an RFP process to try to keep the costs down. It sounds like it's something is necessary to be done here, from what you're being
I think
described.
it is. I think it's more of it's a proactive
Right,
project at this
right.
time, more than it is an immediate need.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it's a no-brainer, basically.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity to get some
That's right.
state aid to
Right.
replace a roof that eventually we're going to have to replace.
Right.
So,
With that,
would
Mr. Chairman.
recommend,
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr.
move to approve the following resolution. Resolve, having convened an open meeting on February 12, 2015, prior to the closing date of February 13, 2015, for submission of statements of interest, the North Reading Board of Selectmen, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent of schools to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated February 4, 2015, for the E. Ethel Little School located at 7 Barbary Road, North Reading, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Replacement, renovation or modernization of the school's facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in the school facility.
Second.
motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Best of luck with that.
Do we have any other guests in town at,
We have the Cowabunga entertainment.
Cowabunga is on there. The finance director's here for a couple of items as well.
Let's take care of those.
why don't we take care of those?
Which one?
Would you like to start with Cowabunga and then?
Yes,
Okay, number 7.
gentlemen from Calabunga here. We're taking things a little out of order to accommodate our guests.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Matthew Pearson. I'm the owner over at Cowabunga. Sorry, guys. We are filing for an amusement license to bring in some amusement games to the facility. And I think Lori's here to help us out as well with any questions that you guys
Can you
might
tell
have.
us about what those kinds of games they are?
They are crane things for the kids, but like 10 and under. Little crane games for candy and balls. A few amusement games like car racing games, things like that.
This is in the former Sears facility?
Yeah,
That's right,
yep.
Yeah, you're already open, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we opened on Saturday. 2
A
o'clock.
great time of year to open.
Yeah. It's been very busy over there, which is great.
Well,
We're
that's
very
good.
happy with it.
And
Any other questions from board members?
how long is your lease? Was it at will?
5-year with a 5-year option, so we're there for the long haul.
That's good.
We've got, primarily it's bouncy houses in there, but, it's a large facility and we complement that with some arcade games. We do have some limitations in the lease. I think it's 15 games or less, so it'll never expand beyond that. But just a handful down the aisle of some of these games. They'll come and go based on how well some of those things do and what the trends are.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. The games you're talking about, you said the cranes or the type of things that pick up something?
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
And then
okay.
they'll drop a
And then
prize
they,
out.
usually don't, but they get something if they
Yeah,
put enough
right.
money in, you know?
Yeah, right. Some of those are play until they win.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that you have a limit of 15
Yeah, I
games that
think
you
there's
can put in?
some exclusives in the lease where, and I don't know all the details, but we can't be an all-out gaming facility
Right.
or like a Chuck E. Cheese type without some waivers being signed and things like that.
Right.
But we're allowed a certain number. I think it's the discretion of the plaza
So-
owners.
Okay, so that's private, it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with the town
As I
having any
understand it, yeah.
restrictions on you, anything like that?
My understanding of the application, you're only requesting for 5?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
So-
that's all we have a spot for now.
All
If
right.
it expands, we'll come back to you guys
All right.
and take care of it.
I just want to make sure, because you said 15, but your license is only going to say
Yeah.
5.
And I think as far as, getting us open and through the doors, 5 is a modest start, and that's probably all we can.
And not to prolong this, but if you could just quickly, maybe the gentleman behind you, can just give us the names of the devices you're putting in there?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
Lori, you can help
I
with
can
that.
help you. My name is Laurie Renasto, and I work for A to Z Vending Company in Lunenburg. And these games are our property. We're gonna put in, as Matt was saying, 2 cranes, one of which will be a candy crane. We are also going to put in 2 driving games, sit-down driving game with video, basically TV monitors in front of you. And then we're also gonna put in a game called a Barber Cut, which is
I could
also
use
a
that.
redemption type of game. It's a box with prizes dangling from strings, various, of various value. And the customer would put money in, and then there's a device that moves up and down and back and forth. It's basically a pair of scissors. So again, it's a game of chance, and if you are aiming correctly, you can snip off the string and collect the prize that's shown. So those are the 5
Thank you.
pieces we'd like to put in.
Any other questions?
I'm just wondering who's gonna put the string in there for the other one.
I'll call you guys, and you guys can do it.
So
There-
before we make the motion, why don't you give yourself a shameless plug here again? Where you are, where you're operating, what your
Cowabunga
hours
is,
are gonna be?
It's our tagline, it's New England's largest indoor inflatable playground. We're over at 265 Main Street. We got all sorts of stuff preparing for vacation week over there. The old Sears hardware store. We're having lots of fun over there. We opened up on Saturday and 10 to 7, Tuesday through Friday, and we'll be open all week for vacation week as well. Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Good
Best
luck.
of luck.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. O'Leary.
I move to approve the following automatic amusement device license to expire December 31st, 2015, subject to all regulatory department requirements. Cowabunga's Entertainment LLC.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Good luck. and
Congratulations.
Welcome to
Thank you,
town.
guys. Thank
Welcome.
you guys very
Thank
much.
you.
The town has been great so far. I really appreciate all the help that you guys have been providing, and Jim DeCole over at the town has been great too. So,
Right.
thank you guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Best of luck.
We gotta have a selectmen's meeting over this.
Oh, God, no, please. They'd be bringing, they'd be calling ALS.
Between 8 and 1.
Thank you very much.
Uh,
We're doing the budget.
Mr. Chairman, 2 items that involve the attendance of the finance director who's here. The first is a very brief update on the fiscal year 2016 budget process. The budget document with the town administrator's recommendations for the non-school operations is complete at this point in time and will be available in Dropbox and hard copy tomorrow, as was previously committed, for the board members to review in advance of the large hearing on Saturday, February 28th here at the Town Hall, followed by a series of smaller hearings during a series of weeknights. Just a couple of things that I will note. As I've indicated, there'll be a cover memorandum that is 3 or 4 pages long that attempts to provide a description and context of the recommendations, as we've discussed, going back to October. It's a bit of a different approach than in past fiscal years where the budget will include town administrator recommendations to fit within the town operations share of revenue as currently projected by the financial planning team. So that I hope the board will be satisfied with the narrative that accompanies the document. I'll note that the assumptions used are those that have been reviewed with the financial planning team for fiscal year 2016. Total estimated revenue in that calculation as of this writing would be $60,628,937, and the share for town operations would be $13,940,514 for fiscal year 2016. And in addition to that, there's also a $60,000 proposed to be transferred from the Solid Waste Stabilization Fund. So that's just the broad context. There'll be a lot more discussion to come, I'm sure. And I certainly would encourage the board members to contact me with any questions between now and the first hearing. I guess I'd like to recognize Liz for her work. Over the past 6 weeks, we've had countless meetings, met with departments to go over their budgets through every line item to understand the requests, and it's been very educational for me. And I appreciate the work of the department heads in answering the many questions and working with us as we propose some different ideas for next year, and we look forward to reviewing them with the board and with the Finance Committee over the next 8 weeks or so.
It's a fun process.
Any questions?
Yeah.
They're
On
coming.
that Saturday, have we scheduled who we're meeting with first?
I don't believe we've established an order at this point in time, no.
Steve, you want to elaborate on the history?
Who brings the donuts?
Whoever brings the muffins or
And the
scones
coffee.
and things like that gets the first dibs. So it's,
What's the date?
remind Mr.
28th.
Cannavale that Mr. Hanlon
Saturday,
always
the
was up
28th.
front.
We'll make sure to coordinate that
But, you know,
with the departments.
Well, thank you, and it's much appreciated to have that, so that we can really go through it.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to read the cover letter, and, you know, I think it's an interesting approach, and it's a difficult budget year coming up, and, you know, I congratulate the town administrator and his staff, Liz, and everyone else that's been working so hard to try to make things fit and to make some changes for the better of the community.
Yeah, and thank you for the format change, too. I think it's going to be easier for us blind people to read it as well.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Okay, next.
The second item is item number 6, to review the draft proposed vehicle policy. And I'd propose to the board that much in the way we handled the draft cell phone policy, that this would be an opportunity for some preliminary feedback in terms of the structure that's been proposed. As I identified, there are potential implications that may require discussions with our employees prior to implementation, although I can tell you that the cost assumptions that are included in the draft policy were factored into the town administrator's recommendations in the budget that's going to be submitted tomorrow. But again, depending upon the outcome of the policy, those recommendations certainly would be changed to reflect the implementation of the policy. To provide a summary in response to the board's request to investigate and review the issue of the provision of vehicles across town departments, as well as the affording of allowances for access for employees using personal vehicles. Request made, I believe, on my first day, if I'm not mistaken. We have a policy that we've drafted, the finance director and the human resources administrator working closely together and meeting with me to come up with a policy that we thought would address some of the concerns and create a more organized, universal, and fair structure so that all employees are being treated fairly. So what that's resulted in is a 3 or 4 page policy that's here. The high points that I'll note is that we've included essentially a justification form, which again is intended to require the demonstration that the access to a vehicle and that to demonstrate that it is a need and to identify what that need is and the frequency of the need for access to the vehicle, so that we can then take the town's assets, both the existing vehicles as well as a couple of vehicles that I intend to transfer into the non-public safety departments for use in the upcoming fiscal year, to make sure we're using our resources as wisely as possible, and again, to do so fairly for all employees. Again, much like the cell phone policy, there are instances where access to a vehicle is a tool that's necessary for a department head to properly discharge their duties, and we certainly recognize that. But again, I think that the inclusion of the justification form will get us in the direction of documenting the need and then making sure that the assignment of vehicles is intended to meet the need. The other thing I'll note is that it gives us authority, that gives the town authority, if approved, to, rather than assign a vehicle, if a vehicle is not available to be signed, to reimburse an employee for the use of their personal vehicle for town duties, if it's determined to be in the best interest of the town. And we've established essentially a recommendation for a flat rate to do that. It is possible that there would be some employees for whom the flat rate wouldn't fit the bill and they would remain as a mileage reimbursement, depending upon the level of travel that they do. But the flat rate we identified was $200 per month for a part-time employee and $400 per month for a full-time employee. I don't want to make any assumptions in terms of what this will, I shouldn't, let me rephrase that. I think that we're going to see some change as we go through this process, assuming the board approves the policy as we go forward, and that we're going to take a close look at the provision of resources, and we may decide that we need to make some transfers of vehicles. Perhaps an employee who doesn't currently have access to a vehicle may have access to a vehicle, or an employee who does have one would not, because the allowance may be a better fit. So we want to look at all that, and we want to have documentation to justify that. Perhaps the thing I should most stress is this is a draft designed to get feedback from the board as a policy that would ultimately be proposed for approval by the board, and that it would be our intention as well to sit down with our employees to discuss the implementation of the policy. I'd look to the finance director to ask if I've missed anything at this point in time, and certainly would be glad to answer any questions based on this working draft.
Mr. Yule?
Yes, and I get the feeling that you're running through everything here and just fixing up things, clarifying things and getting things done, and I appreciate that. My question is, I got 3 little questions. And I think you answered it. Is this a revised, or is this a whole new policy that you created?
It's an excellent question. We do see that that there are 3 things that are at work here. There is an existing policy which was attached to this and denoted as existing vehicle policy. We tried to incorporate the strong points and that we thought needed to be carried forward into the proposed new policy. So that's the first thing I would note. The second thing is that there is language, in particular for the non-union employees, which is most of our department heads, that identifies mileage, but it's a very generic mileage that relies heavily on the use of essentially a per-mile reimbursement. And then, so that's the second piece that folds into it. And then the third piece, again, is the new policy. We're trying to mix all that together. I'm sorry, and the third piece is the documentation in particular for particular employees that identified what the amount was.
Right.
And as you are aware, it gets proposed through a budget process and approved at a budget process and implemented.
In its structure, did you have to run this by legal counsel to see if there was any specific way it had to be done? Or?
Well, our intention was to get feedback from the board to ensure from a broad policy standpoint that we were headed in the right direction in terms of what the board wanted to see, and then to request feedback from Labor Council.
Okay.
And we've done the same with the cell phone policy as well, based on the feedback at the last meeting.
Okay. And lastly, and not necessarily that important, is that on the last sentence in just before the town vehicles assigned to a department, I think that's, I didn't jot that, after number 7, I don't know, let's see, what page is this? The end, last page,
Mhm.
actually. Throughout the language, you always say town administrator and designee. And in this case, you didn't, and I don't know if that means anything or not, but
It would be my intention that any approval for a vehicle to be taken home would be approved by the town administrator only.
only.
Yes.
So no. you
There may be a
designate-
recommendation from a department head, but it would be ultimately with the approval of
Okay.
the town
So
administrator.
that's by design. Okay,
Correct.
That's what I want to know. Thank you.
You all set?
Yep.
Michael?
So the way you have it in our packet, you have some of the new that you've put together, and at the end, you have some of the existing policy. So is that the existing policy that's provided is going to stay in place as written?
Was our intention to recommend to the board that the new policy replace the existing policy? Because we tried to incorporate the salient points that we thought should be carried forward into the new policy.
Because I had a question about number, in 4.3
Mhm.
of the existing,
Yes, sir.
Of the existing?
you have the existing,
Yeah.
and number 6, because I read that, and I obviously never read it before, and I didn't know that. So all town vehicles except unmarked police cruisers shall be marked with distinctive markings. Is that something you're going to continue going forward? I didn't know that was even a requirement. Because I know today we don't do it that way.
We do not do it that way, that's correct, and that's one of the challenges. We have a policy that, it's been administered in different ways, obviously, over history. I think we'd look for
I agree that we should do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any disagreement to it. I would say that we would want to continue to do that. I don't know that we would want to be as restrictive with the language with regard to only designating one category, but I can't think of any other category of vehicle that we would not want to have marked, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Okay.
And
But we'll look to make sure that's clearly incorporated in the new policy.
Well, we have
Mr.
had,
O'Leary?
yeah, this issue has percolated up over the years, in and out, as far as, the seal on the cars, not the seals on the cars, the distinctive coloring, and, the size of the seal, whether it be this big or this big. Mr. Toros could probably remember all this. It goes way back, anyway. But it goes way back. And again, then we get into, the police chief's car, or the fire chief's car. Do they need the insignia on them or not? DPW. We got into all different things, and some people were excused and some were not, and some vehicles were excluded from that for other reasons. So my guess is we'll be having more discussions about it at the time, too.
Mhm.
Okay, I was curious.
But yeah, no, that's been kicked around
The one,
lots of times.
if I could perhaps, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, maybe further to address the question, I would look to, there are certain state laws that govern the release of information with regard to the home residences of public safety employees, and the law is very specific to identify those employees in that way. So we would want to be sensitive to ensure we didn't do anything inconsistent with that,
Right.
from my perspective at least, but we can look at the best way to recommend to the board a policy.
Mr. Prisco?
And then, what is our policy on taking town-owned vehicles outside of Massachusetts? Is it can we do that under our insurance, or can we not? Because I've heard conflicting stories.
I can tell you that I'm not aware of a particular policy with regard to the vehicles leaving the state of Massachusetts or not. I would have to verify with our insurance if there's any implication in doing that. I mean, I can tell you that the town vehicles are registered in North Reading with what I would understand to be a principal address as North Reading, but I would need to check. I need to check further on that.
Yeah, and I think our policy should just address it, because we do have vehicles going outside the state every day, so we should just make sure that we're covered.
We'll follow up on that,
Okay.
Selectman.
Mr. Yule?
That's surprising to me. For what purposes?
Last year, we received a list of all the town-owned vehicles that were assigned to people. And I think there was maybe 3 that were going to New Hampshire, different areas. If I remember, at least 2, maybe 3. And then we just kind of never really addressed that question. I know it came up, but I assumed it was going to get covered here.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I don't know if the finance director has more context on the issue. Perhaps it's come up in the past that I may not be aware of.
I know it has come up. I know the issue of taking them out of state has come up. I don't know if any investigation was done with through Maya to find out if there was any extra added liability for us allowing that to happen. I know that there's at least 2 vehicles that do go to New Hampshire as of last year, as of the list that
Right, that was provided
we
to us.
received. So we probably should be looking to get an updated list of who has what vehicle at this point in time, because
Yeah, that's
some
probably a good
staff
idea.
has changed and
Mhm.
things like that, so.
Yeah, I just want to make sure from a liability standpoint,
Yeah.
where?
Mr. Yule?
Yeah, do we know why? I mean, are these,
That's where they live.
it's where they live, or, oh, okay, I mean, that's, so they're allowed to take the car home, or I guess, yeah, I guess they're allowed to take the car home, okay. All right,
It became an issue with the former police chief when he
yep.
moved to southern New Hampshire, as to whether or not he would be allowed. I thought we got it clarified as far as the insurance coverage during, it was just a question of his residency, because it was within the radius, first of all, and it was out of state, so I think it was looked at back.
Well, I never got, I don't recall getting an answer on it. I know we have, I think, 2 DPW vehicles going to, in that list that was provided to us last year, going outside the state. So I just want to make sure we're not at risk at it.
So,
We'll check that on that issue
regarding-
forthwith.
Regarding process, you presented it to the board
Mhm.
to look over. We put it on an agenda for a future meeting for a discussion.
That's correct, with
First
some of the
reading and
changes too.
then-
And then
Good.
as far as the grossing up people's income for the use of the vehicle, is that the current practice, Liz?
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly.
One of the policies, proposed policy here is that they understand that the value of the vehicle grosses up their income on the W-2,
The use of the vehicle,
or the value of the use of the vehicle.
that is not currently being done,
I didn't think so.
no.
Right, and then, as far as if people get reimbursement for mileage, at the IRS rate,
Mhm.
on their own vehicle, I don't know if it's the intention to gross up people's salaries for that too, because I don't believe that's necessary, because that's a wash.
Yeah, it's a
That-
wash.
That's a little different.
That's different.
Right.
The IRS has gone out to at least a dozen communities in Massachusetts and done audits on the taxing of the benefit of the vehicle, and many communities have been, cited for not doing that. So it is something that we should be doing. If the vehicle is available for personal use, and that use is not just de minimis use, stopping at the grocery store on your way home from work.
Right.
If it's your only vehicle, it's a requirement.
Okay. And then as far as other people who are going to be getting a monthly allowance, and those who currently get a monthly allowance, again, current practice is not to,
That is on their W-2.
that is on the
Yes.
It has to be unless they're putting in receipts and getting paid for.
Right, okay, so that one is, okay.
Yes.
So currently that one is.
Sure. So if we go through them, the auto allowance that is currently being received by employees is on your W-2. The benefit of taking home a town-owned vehicle is not on your W-2. And mileage reimbursement at the IRS mileage rate, which has to still be approved by the town administrator on an annual basis, is processed through the vendor process, so it's just a vendor check. There's no taxation
Right.
on that.
Okay. Right.
And there's no further write-off by the employee because they are receiving, mileage
Right,
reimbursement.
to get the whole rate, yep.
Further
Thank you.
questions?
It's a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Again, I thank Liz and Allison also
No
for
one
their
else
efforts.
here waiting for something, all right? So we'll go back to the top of the list.
Liz has something else.
Oh, yes, we do have something else. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. In the town administrator's report, I included a note with regard to billing and water meter readings as a result of the heavy snow that's
Oh,
come in.
yes. yeah.
And in the report, I identified that we would be required to utilize estimated billing for the winter quarter, and that the intention was to utilize in the average of the past 3 years' bills when calculating that. But with the transition to the new financial system, we found that we won't be able to use the average of the past 3 years. So the finance director, working with the water department, I believe, has come up with a solution which I think that we should have her present so the public is aware. And this is directly a result of the meters being a challenge
Yeah.
to read, at least because of the snow on the ground.
Even
Is
tough with
it okay
snowshoes. In the past, they did it with snowshoes, but even now it's difficult.
So how are you going to approach coming up with a number?
Sure, so, this week, I'll back up. We went live, on Munis utility billing, which will now bill for water services and trash services. And we went live, around the second week of January on those. And so now it was time to do the November through February water bill and the, third quarter trash bill. So we had Munis on site Tuesday and Wednesday. They were supposed to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but because of the snow, they only came Tuesday and Wednesday. So we went through the process, and we thought we would have the ability to, like Mr. Gilberto said, the last three readings at this point in time. And there's a code issue when Munis tried to pull in the last three readings, the last 3 years of readings, to do an estimated average on those. And so we had to hand key in all of the averages from last year at this point in time. So the bill that was for November through February, or November through January, however it was read for that individual property, that's what we had to do this year. So it's based on last year's bill. I'll also note that there are actually 4,700 actual bills going out, that we were able to read 4,700. There's 2,000 that are estimated bills. So that is one change. The other change would be how the bill looks. Water and trash are on one piece of paper, so you'll receive both in the mail. They are two separate bills. There's two separate remits, so they have different bill numbers. And we will be putting this on the website. You'll be able to pay it through the website. Also, we will be putting it in the newspaper and making sure that everybody is aware of this. So we're gonna, put out town news in regards to estimated tax bills and what your new water trash bill looks like. And also we'll put something in the paper that will be in next Thursday. And the bills will be mailed out next Friday, the 20th, and they will have a due date of March 23rd. So I can pass this around, and, at a future meeting, if, like we did with the tax bills, the new tax bills, we can always have a presentation to do that. But tonight's point was to just let everybody know about the estimated tax bills and what the estimated tax bills were based upon.
Water bills, estimated water bills.
Water bills, what the water bills were based upon, and then we can always have further discussions on the look of the bill. And there will be more to the bill going forward. There will be a nice bar graph that shows usage over time, but the first bill there, that it wasn't ready for print.
Have any progress been made on my pet peeve, the schedule?
It's still an open item with our bank and with Munis, so they are working on it, and we're not the only community, so it's always, when I speak with the bank,
Have they been able to give you any kind of an estimate of when they might have this done?
well, they thought for the actual tax bill, which was due February 3rd, but no. So.
Jeff just said it was upside down. Oh.
Can we put a sample in the transcript?
We
of
are
what the
going to
bill
do
will
that.
look like?
Yep.
Great. Michael?
Liz here, maybe a good time to talk about snow and ice as well, or do we want to wait till later?
We can have a preliminary discussion. I spoke with the Public Works Director this afternoon. I don't know if he spoke with the Finance Director or not.
No.
I would suggest maybe we could hold off until the next meeting, just so we can
Okay.
have the most accurate information. As I did advise the board, in terms of the deficit immediately prior to the last storm, it was $413,000, excluding, I think, some materials costs, if I'm not mistaken. And again, that was prior to the
Right.
storm of Sunday, Monday. And my understanding is, again, that was a long-duration storm. It was actually Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and there was significant cost associated with it. I don't have the number in front of me here, but
Just keep in mind that when we talk about that deficit, we're talking about an expense over the 175, right?
That number includes the 175. It's a total expenditure. So we
Well,
can,
that's the total.
we can deduct the 175
Yeah.
from the number,
We
and
only
then that would be.
Before the storm, I think we only had like $40,000 left,
Something like that. if I'm not
$42,000
mistaken.
left in our budget before
That's
that
my
Saturday,
question.
Sunday, Monday storm. So we're obviously gonna be well,
So for financial planning purposes,
We
we,
would have been in a deficit before that storm.
no,
We were
well,
at 413, we only have 175.
I'm just,
We're already-
what I had here, what you provided us,
so I think that you're referring to the deficit, including the carryover that's been budgeted to next year at 250,000.
Yeah.
So we have a $175,000 appropriation plus a $250,000
Right.
Plus,
carryover
okay.
into next year. But we are, at this point, if we have not already, we will likely exceed that,
Oh,
both
I'm
of those
sure.
figures.
We were very close. I think what you were talking about, the $40,000 difference, that was going over the $250,000
Correct.
reserve that we have, so.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now we're
So-
eating into,
We are
Free
into
cash.
having to make transfers from free cash into the snow budget at June town meeting to balance the budget. To the tune of,
Who knows?
100% volunteer system, maybe? I don't know, what do you think?
We'll have to get our snow blowers and help.
there was, you know how on the news they've been flashing pictures of the various predicaments people have with snow, and there was one that someone had painted Uncle on the, that's
thank
the way
you.
I feel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, can we now start at the top? Minutes of February 3rd, Mr. O'Leary.
Get my motions back in order since we took them out
Okay,
of order
sorry.
here. Okay, that's all right.
Take your time.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the February 3rd, 2015 regular session minutes as written.
Second,
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? It's compliments to our secretary.
Yes.
Mr.
We
Chairman,
also have executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the February 3rd, 2015 executive session minutes as written.
Second,
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, next item on our agenda is to schedule show cause hearings. We have 3.
3.
I wanted to ask them, when those 3 came up, they hadn't finished. I'm wondering if... Michael,
Mr.
just a
Chairman.
question. When those 3 incidences were reported by the police, they hadn't finished the complete round?
Oh, okay.
My understanding is they concluded
It's
their
concluded.
work, yes.
So we're just, tonight,
We're just
purpose of
going
the
to
agenda is just for
schedule.
scheduling.
That's correct.
And we
This
can,
is at the recommendation of the police department?
Yeah.
There were reports with regard to the findings of the investigations that they
Yeah.
conducted over the past 3 or 4 weeks.
Good
The 3
reports.
establishments were identified. We've suggested to the board that hearing dates for March 9th for all 3 be scheduled. Again, that would be Tedeschi Food Mart, Hess Express, and Eastgate Liquors
For March 9th?
for March 9th, that's correct, and they're in the motion, those, the dates.
Just in relation to Hess Express, they're going to be coming in for a change of name, change of,
Change of
Manager.
corporate interest, I believe it is, and that's scheduled for February 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, as I looked at Jane.
so,
One second.
who do we hold responsible?
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, I mean, I ask it somewhat in jest, but truly, I believe it's the parent company just changing the name of.
It is. My understanding is that there's a segregation that's going on within the larger corporation of Hess for ownership, and I need to look again at the paperwork, but I think that ultimately the top of the structure remains the same from what I recall. But we can ask for that presentation to be made on the 23rd to be evaluated when you're determining on the 9th.
So they haven't sold out then, they're basically playing some corporate magic or something.
I would defer to the representative of Hess to explain exactly what their transaction is on the 23rd.
So if we're gonna have a show cause hearing, is it for the right entity? Will it be for the right entity? I guess that's what my real question is going to be. Is it Hess or the other people who are gonna be calling in?
I think that until the board approves the change, we're in a situation where the only recommendation I can make is to notify the existing corporate interest to proceed with the hearing so that we don't lose time in scheduling the hearing. If there's a change that occurs, we can consult, if the board approves the change, we can consult with council as to what that would mean for requiring. It may be that there's a recommendation to reissue the hearing notice to the new corporate entity after the fact, but I don't think that a change in ownership is going to certainly divert responsibility for what's alleged to have occurred.
Mr. Prisco.
Have you been in touch with ABCC in regards to Hess?
We've spoken with the ABCC, and we've also spoken with the town council, and we're advised, when we received the application, we questioned its viability because of the number of individuals with residency in Massachusetts, and there is a law with a minimum requirement. But we've been assured by our own council that their application is compliant with the law.
Okay.
And we'll have an opinion with regard to that at the hearing.
Okay, great, thank you.
But there was a question at the time it was received.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
mine.
Yule.
My question has to do with the documents that I'm looking at. I was becoming very confused by it. The minimum age purchase law compliance check. They all basically, activity report, they all basically say the same thing, so it doesn't matter which one you look at, but it says, it gives you the establishment, I'm fine. Then it says violations, and it says yes, and it describes the violation. Okay, and then below that, it says no. So is it yes or no, or why? I don't understand it, to be honest with you. It says that with
Yes,
all of them?
The form is an indication of the check, it's a document of the check occurring, and then was there a violation, and if so, what was it, or was there not a violation?
All right, it's a yes or no
Right.
answer,
Yeah.
so you select one.
Well, the no is circled on the New England beverage, okay, and, yeah, New England,
No, they're not being called in.
they're not being called
So
in.
this
okay.
is the whole list of all the
Okay.
establishments they checked. Was a violation?
Oh, okay,
No. Was a check
okay.
yes, or was a violation? No.
Right.
I thought, okay, let me see
So
if I
those
can
are
find
all the
it.
establishments they checked.
Mr.
Okay.
Legault.
Mr. Chairman, a very fair question, and the chief, at my request, submitted information because we felt that it was important to document not only non-compliance, but to show the community where there was compliance as well. And you'll see that in the report, which is why you have the reports of the areas where there was compliance as well.
You all set, Jeff?
Yeah, it looks like I am. Thank you.
Jeff, you?
Yes, it looks like I am. Thank you.
Okay, so that's going to take place on the 9th, and we'll have all three parties in, and then we may have to delay the Hess based on...
I'll make the motions, Mr. Chairman, if you so wish. Mr. Chairman, I move to hold a show cause hearing on the suspension of the wine and malt beverages license of Tedeschi Food Mart, 202 North Street, on March 9th, 2015.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Discussion, further discussion, Michael?
So it's gonna be on the 9th, and what time? We're gonna start earlier that night? Because I think we have budget things scheduled for that night as
It
well.
will be a busy evening, and before, as we were finalizing the budget recommendation, it was a question of how much time would we potentially need to allow for budget discussion. So we haven't proposed times. We were going to propose them at the time we issue the letters. But I would be open and certainly perhaps encourage an early start time.
I was gonna see if it wasn't too much trouble for the board members, we start at 6 o'clock that particular night.
We've been studying.
We've been
6
studying.
o'clock.
I know, but
For the public
in
session.
executive session, but
Yeah.
if we could start our regular session, I say mainly for the
I will
public.
work out the schedule with
Okay,
Mr. Gilberto.
I'm gonna put it in my
and,
schedule at least.
Karen.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure if we could start earlier, open session.
We'll also have a sense of how things go with the budget. We have a totally new budget process, basically. And we'll have that opportunity, have been into it
True.
on the Saturday, so.
I just don't want, I mean,
Yeah.
some of these show cause hearings could take a little while, so.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 of them.
Okay. Second one?
On the motion.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move to hold a show cause hearing on the suspension of the wine and malt beverages license of Hess Express, 231 Main Street on March 9th, 2015.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Mr. Prisco, again.
Sorry, but I'm thinking about it a little bit. So we're actually going to do it with all 3 businesses in the same room? What if we want to treat one differently than the other? I mean, are we setting ourselves, because we may hear something that we.
One hearing per group.
It's based on the merits of the discussion, the
Okay.
arguments. And
All right, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
we do it
We
in
have
public,
to be
open a public
impartial.
session anyway.
Yeah, I know, I know.
We have to be impartial. act
No,
on
I
the
know.
evidence.
All right. I just don't want to, that's why I don't want to feel compelled that I have to do the same for everybody, because, you read some of these and some are worse than the others.
Well, some have history, and we'll be looking into
Yes,
this.
some do have history.
Mr. Yule?
Yes, just to clarify, is there a possibility that Hess, as we know it, will not be, and therefore it becomes a moot point?
That was sort of what I was speaking to. But
I know. But if it's not possible, I mean,
We'll consult with Labor Council, but I would be surprised to find out that because of pending transfer request, that we couldn't hold accountable an establishment for a violation of regulation or law. However, that said, it may be, well, I'll end my comments there.
right, okay, I guess if it's a new transfer to somebody who has nothing to do, then wasn't involved, I guess that's the direction that I'm,
I think we cross that bridge when we find out exactly what Hess
the
is doing.
transfer is and how arm's length it is.
I think,
I guess it's a short arm, but.
right.
I'll tread
Go there.
cautiously in my comments, but from my position, and I don't want to speak for the police chief, but from my position, if it were that somehow that we'd end up in this kind of arm's length scenario where we couldn't, that the board would not have an opportunity to implement fair discipline on the establishment, then I would be likely to recommend that we hold on action with regard to the transfer, if that were the case, speaking candidly.
So on the motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr.
One more.
Mr. Chairman, I thought it was going to go quickly. I move to hold a show cause hearing on the suspension of the all-alcohol package store license of Eastgate Liquors, 12 Main Street on March 9th, 2015.
Second.
Second by Mr. Prisco.
Well, Mr. Yule's a little slow to the tick.
I
We
know.
wanna move it along.
Any discussion?
Gotta be quick.
Nope.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't think there's anyone here for public comment, but I'll ask anyway. License renewal status update, we're gonna pass over. Primarily because the individual, it's not threatening transportation.
That's correct. I'm
They
happy
were
to,
not
they were not
notified of
notified.
the meeting change.
That's right. There was a change in the evening, and they were not notified, and I think in fairness, we ought to provide them
Yeah.
that opportunity.
We overlooked that one.
Mr. Fode not being here, he's asked us again to hold off the discussion of town-owned land. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
And while I'm on that subject, I'll take the opportunity to, I received an email from Mr. Fode this evening. As you're well aware, as Superintendent of Public Works in Chelsea, he's been a busy man. And tonight, even though there wasn't snow, he was notified that the National Guard was going to provide some vehicles, and he had to be there as part of whatever was going on. But he did ask me to notify the board and the public that, and this is something he wanted to do public a couple weeks ago, but hasn't been able to get to a meeting, that he will not be seeking re-election in May.
Sorry to hear that.
And this is a message that he personally wanted to deliver, but has not been unable to, and he wanted to make sure that the word officially got out so that potential candidates would have an opportunity to make a decision and get themselves organized for the forthcoming election. And I'll wait to thank Mr. Fode for his efforts and contributions over the past 3 years when he's in attendance. Any other comments on that?
No, other than
Anybody?
That's unfortunate. I too will hold my comments until he's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next is discuss the Andover intermunicipal agreement for potable water, and again, we're kicking the can down the road. We are now attempting, Joe Fode and I and Michael are attempting to get together. This last time is my fault. Joe was able to get together yesterday, and I was not able to. I had all good intentions, and I had an office manager that wasn't gonna let me go until something was working. And it turns out it had nothing to do with me, but we didn't find that out until today, so.
We've been keeping in touch with Andover just to let them know that we're not
Yes, we have.
avoiding this, that,
Yes.
you know, the situation, okay?
I spoke with the town manager twice by phone yesterday. I spoke with him at the end of last week as well, and we provided a clear timeline as to when we expected to be back in touch with them.
But it's our intention now, at our next board meeting, to have a final discussion on this, correct?
That's correct. And,
That's on the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay.
And keeping our fingers crossed that,
No, knock on wood that we want it.
we gotta catch a break here
We-
at some point.
At least we're not in it alone.
Okay, next item on our agenda is legal bills for December.
I didn't see it with it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve legal bills for December 2014 in the amount of $4,331.25 as follows. Copeland and Page PC General, $3,737.25. Copeland and Page Labor, $558. Copeland and Page Water, $36. Total $4,331.25.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Any discussion?
Nope.
Comments? Nothing?
No.
Okay. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We have appointments to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee.
We're passing over that for the
No,
next
this
meeting.
is
capital.
capital improvement.
Oh, are those in here?
Yes,
I missed it.
we are appointing, maybe I'll let you explain what's going on.
Sure, it's an appointment of the finance director or I should say reappointment, essentially, of the finance director for a 3-year term to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, and it requires an appointment of the Board of Selectmen.
So moved.
Okay.
Mr.
Name
O'Leary.
change.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move to place in nomination the following name for appointment to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee for a term to expire November 14, 2017, Elizabeth Rock.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule.
Sorry, what was the name?
Elizabeth Rourke.
Rook, okay.
So
Elizabeth
we just have a
Paveo.
name change.
You have a name change, okay.
Oh, okay,
Same
that's why.
person, doing the same job.
All right.
I said, okay.
She has changed her name.
Okay. On the motion.
On motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. So we're gonna see a different email address coming shortly?
I believe so, although I will
So,
check
just
with her.
as
to
an
confirm.
alert.
Yeah. No. I gotta remember to start.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we use first initial, last name, so it might be easy to skip over something important, like signing the warrant.
Yeah.
All set?
Okay.
Town administrators report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 1, relative to meter reading, we've obviously already attended to, and I spoke earlier in my comments with regard to snow and ice removal expenditures to date. Finally, In response to the request of the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, we have submitted documentation to the, of town expenditures to the MEMA for expenses associated with the January 26th through 28th blizzard. The total town estimated cost is $208,745, and an itemization was attached, and that includes the work of public works crews for clearing roads, as well as staffing in the police and fire departments during that time. What will happen is this initial damage assessment data will be compiled with other communities in Middlesex County. The federal government will conduct a review. They'll actually, my understanding is that they will come on site and evaluate the damage that occurred. And then, should a determination be made that the this is declared a disaster, the blizzard itself, this is not all of the storms, it's only the January 26th through 28th storm, then there would be potentially an eligibility for reimbursement of costs, which in the past has been 75% of those costs. So we've submitted that information. I've advised Senator Tarr and Representative Jones that we've been working cooperatively with MEMA as well. Again, at this point, I think it's a matter of convincing the federal government of whether we've hit the standard or not. The informal word is that there's a good chance we may have a compelling statement as a county for what they call a snow situation rather than a public damage situation, but that remains to be seen. So we're doing, certainly doing our parts with regard to sharing the information. The final thing, and it wasn't in the report at the time of writing of this writing, but that I'm sure we're all aware that there's a lot of attention being paid to the issue of snow load on roofs, particularly flat buildings. As you probably have seen, the area where the damage seems to be occurring is south of Boston, where the snow was heavier and where they got more snow in this most recent storm. However, the building superintendent, John Welsh, has evaluated all of the town buildings with regard to their condition. And in most cases, what we're finding is approximately 18 inches of fluffy snow on the roofs. There are areas where there are drifts and they are taller, some as high as 3 feet. But I've been assured that based on the inspection, those are areas that are either pitched or are reinforced from below and don't pose a risk of failure. That said, in light of the forecast for additional heavy snowfall coming, two things have been initiated. The first, localized ice dam control efforts at the public safety building, and that's happening through the work of the fire department to remove ice dams and icicles, particularly on the rear of the building. The second thing is we're in the process of scheduling a roofing company to assist in the removal of snow next week after what's anticipated to be heavy snowfall. And that's it's going to be a cost to the town, but it's a proactive attempt, and we want to be ahead of this rather than behind it, because while the long-range forecast continues to be for Arctic cold into next week, if we don't have a melt and we run into a rain situation, we don't want to be in a situation of having to scramble. So while it might be to be a difficult expense, and I can tell you that preliminary estimates are somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 to do it, I would say to you that if the forecast holds as to what we're expecting to see in the next few days, we probably are advised to do it. And so our intention is to plan to do it. The forecast changes, then we'll reevaluate it, but we don't want to be caught flat-footed. We have the benefit of being able to plan and address it proactively. We're going to try to do it.
Mr. Purcell.
Those expenses come out of snow and ice as well?
I believe that they've been assigned and been classified as eligible for snow and ice in the past. If not, then we'll seek to identify an alternative funding source to do it. But my understanding is they are eligible for snow and ice.
That's great. Oh, that's good.
Ms. Steele.
Yes, I think, Bob, you mentioned this before, but I just need to make sure I understand. Right now, the cost of $413,500, and that was at the beginning of the last storm, correct? That's not counting the last storm.
Correct.
All right. And we had $175,000 budgeted, which we normally do, and then the carryover into next year, the $250,000.
Mhm.
Where does the carryover come from?
It's in terms of the total amount of tax revenue we have, just like the assessors hold what they call the overlay reserve, they hold some money off because of tax abatements. We hold some money off to apply to snow and ice above and beyond the
The
budget
175.
amount.
Okay.
But we don't
It
put it
takes
in there.
town
because
meeting
that-
action.
No, I understand that.
It takes town meeting action to close the gap,
I
and
understand
it's
that.
settled in the tax recap in
No,
November.
that part I do understand. I appreciate that. So I just need to understand, so we have $425,000 to cover this 413, but that's gone.
And actually, we declared the emergency because we expended our budget, which
Right.
was only 175.
Well, it's in fact, right, that's
Now,
correct.
we have, in terms of free cash that we carry, an estimated amount that we might need. It's a number that came from a typical average year over the past few years. So that, but any penny that we use from free cash means that that's money that either would go against capital expenditures, additional capital expenditures, it would go against putting money in the debt stabilization fund
Right.
to provide more money in both the town and school budgets for next year. And that is extremely tight, meaning those numbers don't move very much from what they were last year, based on a number of things that are going on, including our desire currently to put money into OPEB and our expected health insurance increase. So those are the two big drivers. It's a little early in the game to finalize the revenue. We're still waiting for what the governor's going to propose for next year. And because we have a new governor, we don't get that number until the end of February, the beginning of March. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
And that concludes my
Anything else,
comments for the town administrator's report. Thank you.
Well, that was enough.
Mr. O'Leary?
First of all, I know there was comments at the last meeting about the Peter Pan production, and I was fortunate enough to get to go, my wife and I, the other night, and I'll tell you, I was so favorably impressed, with the presentation that was put on by the students. It was fantastic, and in the venue of the new facility, even better. But it was nice to see as far as I know, they used a lot of the apparatus that's in there, and they just did a fantastic. The presentation was great. It was fantastic, and again, if people have the opportunity to go to any of the plays coming forward, I would encourage them to do so, because what a fantastic job, and congratulations to Mr. Prisco's daughter and all the other students who were participants in the play. They did a terrific job.
Just while we're on that subject, one observation I made, because of Main Street being so large, you don't have that crowd, just cramped in there waiting either to get in or when they leave.
But it was a sellout crowd Saturday. I mean, it was.
It was.
I didn't mean, I meant
I know, but
the space allows the
Yeah,
crowd to
intermission was
have a
nice.
little bit of room.
yeah, intermission was great. It really, the facility worked terrific.
And I think having the seat, everybody having a assigned seat made it nice. Nobody
yeah.
had to rush in there early and hold seats.
Very
and
good. Yeah, that really
It made
worked
it
well.
easy to get people
Great
in
idea.
and get people out.
Yeah.
Yeah, facility was excellent.
Anything else,
But,
Mr. O'Leary?
No, it's just great to see the facility put to use and really being utilized. I mean, and you could tell the kids just thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and they were radiant. They were terrific. And just finally, again, just to acknowledge our DPW employees and contractors that are doing the best they can under very trying circumstances. And I know that there are certain areas in town and certain ends of the road and things like that are difficult to take down. But as you said, at some point, we need to get a break. And these people that have been working, for several weeks now, not getting a break. So hopefully we get a little bit of a break, but it doesn't look like it. But I think under the circumstances, from what I've seen, our community is faring as well as anybody else's, and even the road conditions have been better than a lot of them. So again, I appreciate their efforts and their hard work, and I wish them an early spring. So,
Not
That's
too
all,
early,
Mr.
because we'll be flooding.
yeah, not too early. Yeah, a slow melt, early spring with a slow melt.
Mr. You done, Steve? Mr. Yule?
Yes, I'm going to echo a couple of things that Steve said, and I'm sure Mike will say the same thing. I had the luxury of filming the play, Peter Pan, and it's important to understand that Mrs. Kane has always got the most out of the children because they do everything. I mean, they have to set up the stage, and they have to learn the tricks and so on, and then she gets the most that you can get out of the students, and they perform well. In the old school, they were very creative with the things that they did when they did Barnum. If you saw Barnum, it was amazing. And now they're able to take advantage of the new equipment to work with, and the things that they couldn't do before, they're able to do now. So it was a fantastic show, to say the least. I got the song stuck in my head, and I hate it. It's called "Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow," and I really don't mean that. But yes, I think we have to take our hats off to the TA and to the director of the DPW for all of the hard work that they've been doing. I would like to make a recommendation that we suspend any requirements of snow removal from the sidewalks, because I think it's just, some people have done a really good job, but it's tough right now, especially with the storm coming up this Sunday, that,
Where do you put it?
we relax on that issue, because everyone's been doing the best they can under these circumstances. And no, Mr. Messeri, I have not been shoveling snow on Main Street. That's not true.
Just wondering.
Thank you very much.
Just to add one little thing on the play, because the cast, they deservedly should get a lot of credit. But I was there for several days, assisting the kids a little bit with building the sets, and I got to tell you, if your child isn't interested in acting, the crew works so hard, and they're the unsung heroes of that whole play, and things they built, and all the equipment that we have now at the facility, in the whole workshop, and those kids did it all. They cut the wood, they designed it, they painted it, then they repainted it, and then they repainted it until they got it just the way they wanted it. So if your child isn't interested in actually casting, I hope that parents know that there's a lot more behind the scenes going on than there is on that stage. And it is amazing back there. And Mrs. Kane and Mr. Kane and Mr. Foreman as well, those three deserve a lot of credit from this town, because it gave us, as a community, something nice to see, and they put a lot of time and effort in. As much as those kids did, they were there equally as much, so I give them my...
It's fair to say there's a job for everybody.
There really is. It really is. So if your child isn't into the sports at that particular time of the year, I encourage them to get involved.
Hey, but Mike, don't they have fun doing it?
Oh, they do. My daughter's so sad it's over. She's so sad.
But it's great to, just to jump in, as far as the
Yeah.
facility itself, I just hope that this fosters more interest.
I do.
In the performing
I agree.
arts. Because we've got a terrific facility, the town's made a huge investment, and the first fruits of the labor here have been fantastic. And I just hope it continues to foster the interest.
Yeah. Now we just got to put the floor back in the orchestra pit. Anyway, we won't go down there.
No, we don't go.
Don't start on that tonight.
I just want to update the board members that 48 hours after our last meeting, I did update the second reading of,
Yes.
and I
Thank
sent
you.
it into Mr. Gilberto and
We all have it.
Ms. McKnight as well. No, not all the board members have it yet, because I only sent
Oh.
it to the town administrator and the planner, so they could make sure I captured all the right comments, and then they could finesse any wording that they didn't like, which I know they're still in the process of doing that, so I believe we should see it probably next week.
Didn't I give a copy of that?
I just CC'd you that I'm
Oh,
emailing the
oh,
town.
okay.
If I
Yeah.
email the town administrator,
Oh,
I
yeah,
CC you.
okay, I got it, okay.
Just to let you know.
And
I
with,
didn't look at the distribution, so.
just with a quick update on that, so the town planner had some comments. I had a couple of conversations with her, and she input those comments, and we've now put that draft in Dropbox under the Economic Development Subcommittee, Economic Development
you.
Committee for 2015, so it's in there for the board to review and
Excellent.
provide comment on. The CPC will review it at their meeting on Tuesday evening, and then I believe the board was next scheduled to review it on the 23rd. And I know that there was also a notice put in the paper for interested candidates. I think that the transcript added in today.
Thank you, Bob, for
candidates to
doing
come
that.
in with the goal of the appointments occurring, I believe it was on the 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
Second.
Sorry, second?
We were talking about this.
No,
We were going to be at the CPC meeting.
CPC meeting on the.
Must be March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd,
Yep.
I would think.
Is that what they meet on Tuesdays?
I believe, yeah, it's Tuesday evenings.
I'm all set. I'm all set.
That's it?
Yeah.
So we're going to meet with them when again, March 3rd?
I believe it's March 3rd, but we'll check and email the board to confirm.
Just put an email out or something.
If you can check.
Okay, I just want to, repeat what everyone else has said about the DPW, but it's a DPW, it's a police, it's the fire, it's the people at Town Hall that have worked so hard to, make sure communications and issues that are dealt with in an expeditious manner. I just urge our citizens, if there are some specific issues they consider to be a safety issue, they notify the appropriate authorities. I'd like to also comment that if you have an elderly neighbor and,
Yep.
please keep an eye out for them, and if something you can't do, you might call Elderly Services, maybe they can help. Please caution when driving in town. You can't pull out into your intersections like
No
you
way.
used to. You gotta kind of creep out there, and, the DPW has been so busy keeping the snow off the streets, they haven't had time to come back and knock down some of the piles on the corners and things like that, so, and based on what's forecast, I think it's gonna go on for a while, so, I urge patience, and please drive carefully. We have children walking in the streets, we have adults walking in the streets, we have them walking on 62 in some spots. And
School vacation week coming up?
Yeah.
School vacation week, that's another point, Steve, thank you.
Kids are beginning the snowbanks.
Mr. Yule, you wanted to
Yeah,
comment before I finish?
one thing I overlooked is that the 911, reverse 911 has been spectacular. Like, we've been all notified, everyone knows what's going on, and kudos to the town for having that system in and communicating with everyone.
Yeah, I think the big thing has really helped is that the trash notification.
Yeah.
That minimized the amount of trash blown around town
Right.
as a result of things going out too early. And the fact then that we allowed people to have 1 or 2 barrels the following week because some people missed what was going on. And lastly, fire hydrants. If you got one near your home, and if you're not able to shovel it out for whatever reason, maybe you can talk one of your neighbors into
Call me,
doing it.
I'll get it.
Call Mike. That's all I have for
Well,
this
I'm
evening.
sorry, I thought maybe one of you would bring up that message that came out about the gas meters. That was
Yes.
a really good information.
Yeah.
I did not know any of that.
Sure.
Maybe you could give a little bit of insight.
Absolutely. So we have a safety advisory that has come out from National Grid, and it's also been supported by the fire department, which is to remind any property owner with gas service to check around their home to ensure that the meter, which may be buried, is dug out and exposed because it's at risk of freezing and potentially malfunctioning, but also to look up and ensure that it's not in danger of being struck by falling ice, whether it be an ice dam or a large icicle that can cause damage. I can tell you that the fire department did have a report of a very substantial icicle falling at one of the apartment complexes in town, and it struck a large main, and they tended to it, and they did a great job addressing the issue so that nobody was hurt, but it identified the risk. And if it isn't up already, it will be up on the town website advising people, and I think that it's gone out as a news email as well.
It did, yeah, news and announcement did send it out. That's
It did
all
go
I
out
saw.
good. So I thank the fire chief for bringing that to our attention and to his guys who are dealing with it. But it is an area of concern for sure.
I never knew it. It was great information in that.
Yeah, I've had, the gas meters in early days had a plastic cover,
Yeah.
and something fell and damaged mine, the cover.
No. You're lucky that's all it did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll
Thank you,
entertain-
I move to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr.
Second.
O'Leary? You would,
I
motion
made, so moved.
Aye.
by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Stay safe, everybody.
Yes.